Today we are going to study a new lesson, Taro's Reward. It's a popular folktale in Japan and also it's a very motivational story. It is a story of Taro, who is a very hardworking and dutiful son to his parents. He works very hard to fulfill his parents' wishes and gets rewarded in the most unexpected manner. This lesson gives you a moral that hard work always gives you success, and also we should love, honor, respect, and obey our parents. Before explaining the chapter, I would like to introduce the main characters of the story. First, we have Taro, who is kind hearted, poor, obeying child of his parents. Then we have Taro's parents, who are quite old. Then villagers are there. Then lastly, the emperor. Taro was a young woodcutter, lived with his parents. Look at the first paragraph. A young woodcutter named Taro lived with his mother and father on a lonely hillside. All day long he chopped wood in the forest. Though he worked very hard, he earned very little money. Taro, the main character of the story, he was a woodcutter, lived with his parents on a lonely hillside. He respected, loved his parents very much. He wanted to give them everything, whatever they needed. What was his job? Chopping the wood. He goes to the forest and chop the wood, then he sell the wood in the market and get money. This is the way he earned his livelihood. He worked very hard, but he could not earn so much money to give his parents everything they needed. This made him very sad, for he was a thoughtful son and wanted to give his old parents everything they needed. He was so caring and he wanted to make life better for his parents. One evening, when Taro and his parents were sitting in a corner of their hut, a strong wind began to blow. It whistled through the cracks of the hut and everyone felt very cold. Suddenly, Taro's father said, "I wish I had a cup of sake. It would warm me and do my old hurt good." One evening, a cold, strong wind started blowing that passed through the cracks of the hut. So, everyone felt very cold. Suddenly, that means quickly, Taro's old father wished for a hot cup of sake. This made Taro sadder than ever, for the heartwarming drink called sake was very expensive. How do I earn more money? He asked himself. How do I get a little sake for my poor old father? He decided to work harder than before. Hearing this, Taro felt so sad because sake was a very expensive drink. He could not afford it. He himself asked, "How do I buy little sake for my lovely father?" He worried so much. So, he decided to work harder than before and earn more money to fulfill his father's wish. Next morning, Taro jumped out of bed earlier than usual and made his way to the forest. He chopped and cut as the sun climbed, and soon he was so warm that he had to take off his jacket. His mouth was dry and his face was wet with sweat. My poor old father, he thought. If only he was as warm as I. Next morning, he woke up earlier than usual time and went forest for his work. He chopped and cut, chopped and cut. He continued his work. As the sun climbed, when sun rose up, he felt very warm and that time he had to remove his jacket. His mouth was dry and his face was wet with sweat. He was so tired, but still he continued. He wanted to earn more money. He wanted to cut more woods and get more money. At this point, what was in Taro's mind? Now, Taro is thinking that if only such warmth could be there in his father's body. and with that he began to chop even faster, thinking of the extra money he must earn to buy the sake to warm the old man's bones. He may get warmth as he feels right now. So, this very thought made him chop even faster. Then suddenly Taro stopped chopping. What was that sound he heard? Could it be? Could it possibly be rushing water? Taro could not remember ever seeing or hearing a rushing stream in that part of the forest. He was thirsty. The axe dropped out of his hands and he ran in the direction of the sound. While continuing his work, Taro heard a sound. First, he did not understand what is a sound. Now he is doubting that is it a rushing water? That means a flowing water. Taro never seen a rushing stream in that area of the forest. He could not even remember that he heard like that before. He was already tired, thirsty, and the axe dropped out of his hands, and he ran in the direction of the sound because he was so excited. He wanted to know from where he heard the sound of the rushing stream. Taro saw a beautiful little waterfall hidden behind a rock. Kneeling at a place where the water flowed quietly, he cupped a little in his hands and put it to his lips. Was it water or was it a sake? He tasted it again and again, and always it was the delicious sake instead of cold water. Here, behind a rock, he saw a beautiful waterfall. He went near to that waterfall. Kneeling down, he cupped, that means he made his hands into the shape of a cup and got the liquid in his hands. And he drank. He was so surprised. It was not water, it was the delicious sake. Delicious means very tasty. Next paragraph. Taro quickly filled the pitcher he had with him and hurried home. The old man was delighted with the sake. After only one swallow of the liquid, he stopped shivering and did a little dance in the middle of the floor. Next, what Taro did? He filled the pitcher with the sake. Pitcher means the pot which is made of mud. He filled the pitcher with the sake and he rushed home. He was so happy because without spending any money, he got the sake. For that, he was so much worried and he worked very hard. So he was now excited, so much excited, and he reached his home and he gave the delicious sake to his father. His father was so delighted, became very happy. Delighted means he became very happy. He stopped shivering after one swallow of the sake, and the old man did a little dance in the middle of the floor. That afternoon, a neighbor stopped by for a visit. Taro's father politely offered her a cup of sake. The lady drank it greedily and thanked the old man. So that afternoon, one lady came to their house. Taro's father was so polite and having the nature of sharing. He offered her a cup of sake and she drank it greedily. Greedily means to have more and more. She drank it as if she is desiring to have it more and more and thanked the old man. Then Taro told her the story of the magic waterfall. Thanking them for the delicious drink, she left in a hurry. By nightfall, she had spread the story throughout the whole village. Taro told her about the story of the magic waterfall, from where he got the sake. Then, thanking them, she left their house. But what she had done, she had spread the story throughout the whole village. Everybody in the village came to know about the story from where he got the sake. That evening, there was a long procession of visitors to the woodcutter's house. Each man heard the story of the waterfall and took a sip of the sake. In less than an hour, the picture was empty. So, by evening, there was a long procession. Procession here refers crowd. Lot of people gathered over there in front of their house, and they wanted to taste the sake. Each one took a sip, drank small mouthfuls. In less than an hour, the picture became empty. Next morning, Taro started for work even earlier than the morning before. He carried with him the largest picture he owned, for he intended, first of all, to go to the waterfall. Next morning, Taro started for work very early, earlier than the morning before. Now, this time, purposely, he carried a big picture he had. So, what was his plan? He thought first he would go to the waterfall and get sake. When he reached it, he found, to his great surprise, all his neighbors there. They were carrying pitchers, jars, buckets, anything they could find to hold the magic sake. Then one villager knelt and held his mouth under the waterfall to drink. He drank again and again, and then shouted angrily, "Water, nothing but water." Others also tried, but there was no sake, only cold water. Here, when he reached near the waterfall, to his great surprise, he found all his neighbors there with their pictures, jars, buckets. They brought anything with that they could carry the sake. Now, what happened? One villager wanted to drink the sake. He tried. He drank again and again. He shouted angrily. It was simple, plain water. By hearing his shout, others also started tasting. It was only cold water, not sake. "We have been tricked," shouted the villagers. "Where is Taro? Let us drown him in this waterfall." But Taro had been wise enough to slip behind a rock. When he saw how things were going, he was nowhere to be found. Now the villagers got so much angry, and they felt they had been tricked by Taro. They wanted to catch him and immerse him in the waterfall and kill him. But Taro was clever. He hid himself behind a rock. Standing there, he saw how the things were going on. Nobody could catch him, as he had been wise enough to move fast and hid himself behind the rock. Muttering their anger and disappointment, the villagers left the place one by one. Taro came out from his hiding place. Was it true? He wondered. Was the sake a dream? Once more he caught a little liquid in his hand and put it to his lips. It was the same fine sake. To the thoughtful son, the magic waterfall gave the delicious sake. To everyone else, it gave only cold water. Now the villagers, one by one, left the place, murmuring, and they were very sad. With much expectation of getting sake, they came, but nothing they got. They were totally disappointed. After everyone left, slowly, Taro came out of his hiding place. He wanted to make sure that it was water. Whatever happened yesterday was a dream. Now he was confused. He took little liquid in his hand and tasted. To big surprise, it was the same delicious sake. As Taro was very thoughtful son, he was very caring son, the magic waterfall gave him sake, and to others it gave only cold, the normal water. Sake was the reward for his goodness. The story of Taro and his magic waterfall reached the Emperor of Japan. He sent for the young woodcutter and rewarded him with 20 pieces of gold for having been so good and kind. Then he named the most beautiful fountain in the city after Taro. This, said the emperor, was to encourage all children to honor and obey their parents. The Emperor of Japan also came to know the story of Taro and his magic waterfall. He called Taro to his court and gave him present 20 pieces of gold because he was so good and kind towards his parents. This way, the emperor encouraged all children to respect, obey, and serve their parents. He honored having a fountain named after Taro. So, what is the moral of the story? We should take care of our parents and elders. Work hard to fulfill their dreams and wishes. We should be thoughtful, obedient, and hardworking to make our parents happy. God gives us blessings.